We all can do better. Start with me.
Hey, maybe I haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal.
Of course, that was the Brian Daboll saying, we all can do better, starting with me. This is Tim, this is your Giant Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. It's the Monday after the debacle. It used to be funny. We used to say that repeatedly in the Judgian era, especially that last season. But, Brian Daboll was asked if there was any changes that can be made going forward to help out the team.
Yeah, no, we all can do better. Start with me.
Is that so you wouldn't?
Yeah, I'd say we all can do better.
We all can do better.
No.
We can all do better, starting with me. The press conferences from the Daboll have gotten more and more Pat Shurmur-esque. And Pat Shurmur, we've talked about this before, was always the smartest guy in the room when they won. When they lost, everyone was dumbasses but him. But it hasn't gotten completely to that level. But that facade that Brian Daboll had about him during press conferences, win or lose, good or bad or indifferent, especially last year, because we had a great start of the season, we had a terrible second half, but he still always had his cool. He was kind of Joe Cool under pressure. No matter what, he was always like, yeah, okay, you know what, we could do better. And like I said, one of the things I loved about him was the fact that he talked about that he just, when he talked about something was this, he always just kind of said, it's 1 week at a time. We have to do this 1 week at a time. Win, lose, or draw. We have to play the games that are in front of us. He's kind of losing that a little bit. I got another clip here I want to hear. I haven't screened this clip yet, so let's listen to this Brian Daboll clip together.
Can you understand, though, where from an outside perspective, someone who's not in your locker room, it seems like something's gone wrong? Whether it's the chemistry with the team or something, it just seems like, there was the Xavier McKinney thing last week, now Wink today. I mean, it just feels like something has gone wrong.
Wink today? What do you mean wink today?
Interaction.
There's interaction, Kim, every game. Every game. No different. Standard.
Perception is different, though. I mean, this is the guy who reported it. The TV broadcast has been on hundreds, probably maybe thousands of sidelines before. He thought it was different, so at least it looks different. You get that perception-wise, it could be taken differently.
Sure, but it wasn't.
He's just not there. Daboll, to me, just isn't there anymore. He's just answering questions. They're very short-term answers. They're very, very Belichickian answers, but the only problem is Belichick's got multiple rings, so he can answer questions like that. And for him to kind of just dismiss what Wink is saying, and the guy even brought it up, say, hey, listen, Wink has been on thousands of sidelines before. He sees something different. And how can you not see this? And I always keep thinking, has Daboll checked out? I mean, in some regards, we kind of knew that Daboll wanted the LA Charger job, and he came here with his buddy Shane to take the Giant job. I'm not saying that Mara's moving on from Daboll. I'm not saying it at all, because that would be silly. You got the guy that was a coach of the year last year. You went to the playoffs. You made a playoff game. Your general manager signed a quarterback to a bad contract. I don't care what people tell him. Well, you can get out of it in 3 years. It still was a bad deal. Forced, in some regards, the quarterback onto the coach. Now, the coach is always going to say, oh, yeah, I can work with this guy because he wants to be an NFL head coach. But that luster is kind of gone from Daboll right now. And like I said, you even watch the sideline demeanor. And you even watch the sideline demeanor of his players. It's just not the same. And I keep thinking back to myself that, when you see these types of things, when you see the arguments on the sideline, when Sterling Shepard seems like he's kind of going after Darius Slayton, and Darius Slayton has had more of an impact and more of a production on this team in the last 3 years than Sterling Shepard has ever, has had. And it looks like he was kind of calling him out in a bad loss to Dallas. I'm like, you do that in the locker room. You don't do that on the sideline. The same thing with the Wink conversation. I talked about the video yesterday. It was like the conversation started towards the end of the half. Looked like it was carrying into the locker room. And honestly, when they came back out into the third quarter, it looked like it was carrying out again. Like it was still going on. And it's a little troubling. And like I said, when I watched the highlight of Sterling Shepard and going after Darius Slayton, and Darius Slayton kind of walking away, putting his helmet back on, and Daboll's got to come over and calm down the whole situation, there is a lack of leadership on this team. And I'm watching again, Darius Slayton Sterling Shepard yell at Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton is kind of shaking his head like, leave me the fuck alone, man. You don't play. You don't know what's going on. And this is a chance for someone to step up in the locker room. You know, we have 4,987 captains. But the problem is none of these captains really seem to be stepping up and cooling down these situations. Now, Brian Daboll talked about the stuff that was going on during the game.
Conversations with all those guys.
Saquon had an animated discussion with you after the turnover on downs.
No different. Normal stuff during the game.
And the last one, well, like with Slayton and Shepard, that seemed a little different. I mean, you saw them getting into it, and then you walked all the way.
Yeah, Slayton and Shepard weren't getting it. They weren't getting into it.
I don't know who was.
Yeah, little stuff during the game.
Now, and like I said, this is what I don't get. Has he literally checked out? Because you see these things, the optics alone from the sideline looks horrendous. Sterling Shepard is supposed to be the elder statesman of the New York Giants. Darius Slayton was a guy who was contributed over the last 4 seasons, going on 5 years, going on 4 or 5 years now. He's made contributions. You got Saquon Barkley, I love him to death. He's running with purpose, but if I was him, I would just my hamstring. Because this team is no longer together. And I'm not going to sit there and say the trading of Leonard Williams has caused this dilemma, because this dilemma has been going on before we traded Leonard Williams. And he never seemed to be much of a locker room presence either way. You can't just keep anointing guys captains without them stepping up and doing their job. And the one job of the head coach is to be the calming influence, is to be that guy that is just going to kind of just make everyone take a breath, take a moment, and hold everyone together. Right now, Brian Daboll's 11-15-1 with his New York Giant record. And I'm hard pressed to see a game that we may potentially win this season. I thought maybe the Pat game. I thought maybe the Packers game. But more and more that we're looking at this, there seems to be less of an opportunity to win this. Right now, we're sitting number 2 overall to get the quarterback that we need. But I'm starting to lose a little faith in Brian Daboll because of the fact that, like I said, he just seems like he's checked out. The losses are getting more and more embarrassing. This isn't something that's recent. This is going back to the 40-0 blowout opening day. Opening day, of course, is in baseball. But this is going back to that blowout. And that blowout just seemed like we weren't ready to play. And I just have they? Have they thrown the towel in on the season? Has Daboll thrown the towel in what he wants to do or be in New York? Because I've said this before. I think if Buffalo implodes and Sean McDermott gets fired, I have a feeling that Brian Daboll would force his way out and force his way over to Buffalo. Because at times, if you look at him, he understands the situation. The talent on this roster has not gotten better. We talked about it in the video yesterday. Yes, we understand that we are in a rebuild. This is year 2 of the rebuild within the rebuild. The worst thing that could happen, and I've been saying this for years. I said this during the 7-2 start. I said the worst thing that could happen to this team last year was to make the playoffs, because a lot of people were going to be thinking that we were a lot better than we were. And that's what happened. And now that we've come crashing down to reality, you have a lot of people that are just kind of sitting around pointing fingers, but not pointing fingers in the direction they probably should be, which is going to be Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. The talent that Schoen has brought in has not gelled, has not worked outside of someone like Banks. Bellinger's been solid. McFadden's been solid. But we haven't, Bobby Okereke was a good signing, but he's also, for all the pluses, he's got a lot of minuses. And I've said this before. I think this roster is more devoid of talent than it was last year. And then when you have Saquon Barkley having an animated discussion with Brian Daboll on the sidelines after the Giants turned it over on downs near the goal line, you could see there was a visible frustration from not only from Saquon Barkley, but the entire receiving corps. Your job as the head coach is to hold it all together. Good, bad, or indifferent, no matter what happens, you need to hold it all together. And I just don't see Daboll right now holding it all together. And I wish I was wrong. Like I said, I do not think he's going to get fired. I only think he leaves this job. I think he only leaves this job. I don't think he gets kicked out of this job. You can't move on from Shane because of the fact that you got to give him at least another. You know what's sad to say? You got to do a Gettleman and give him at least another season. And you have to hope that his draft talent gets better because right now between Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, that's not looking too hot. Yeah, I know. Kayvon had the injury, the concussion, but he's been MIA since the Vegas game. Is Carl Banks going back on the fan to apologize about Kayvon Thibodeau? Because I'm looking at the film, Carl, and I'm not seeing anything for 2 games now. You want to believe it, like I said, and I'm a season ticket holder. And I'm just looking at this from a perspective. I am a season ticket holder, but you had a guy who literally just gave up 600 yards to the Dallas Cowboys. And now there's a clip of Darius Slayton after the game. And Darius Slayton is a calm, quiet guy. But let's play this clip.
It's week 10, and we've not done a lot of winning or been very productive on offense. And it's very frustrating, as somebody who considers himself, one of the better players on the offense, somebody that can help this team win. It's like you prepare your butt off, you practice your butt off, and you study and you want the results. You want the wins on game day. You want to go out there and be a part of one of the best offensive units in the league. So that's all it is, man. I have a deep desire to win. I'm a very calm, collected person. Like I don't speak very much, but on the inside, I always feel that way. If we're losing or if it's not going our way, it happened to come out of me today, but that's how I always feel. If we're losing, if things aren't going our way, that's what's going on inside of me. I just normally contain it, and it got away from me a little bit today.
So it got away from him today, and that's understandable because Darius Slayton's been through some crap. He's been through some bad regimes. He's been on some bad teams, and I think this right now is even worse than the Judgian teams. This is maybe worse than the Mike Glennon, Jake Fromm teams. But he's literally saying probably what everyone thinks. And I keep looking at some of these people that the Giants are playing, and again it's guys like what's his name, McCain and Campbell and Shepard and Matt Breida and Bredesen and Ward and Hawkins and Robinson and McLeod. These are guys that probably shouldn't be starting on NFL rosters, but they're starting here on the Giants. It's just weird, like I said, that you have so much pomp, you have so much circumstance, and you think you are pulling it back in, and you think that you're going to have the ability to get better because when you're in the middle of a rebuild, even if you are still in a rebuild, you should get a little bit better. Like I said, I didn't think we were going to make the playoffs, but I did think we were going to get a little bit better and be more competitive, maybe win 6-7 games. But still have a competitive edge to it because you should be cultivating your talent and getting your talent to be better. And this should all be a part of your head coach's grandiose plan. But I'm just not seeing it. And like I said, it's sad to say, do I think he checked out? Yes. I'm starting to think that Brian Daboll is checked out. As I'm doing this podcast, I'm starting to think that Brian Daboll is checked out. We're going to have a live stream, of course, on Monday afternoon, which is this afternoon at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you stay tuned for that. And as always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'd be awesome.